I'm Nick from originally from Germany. Um, I have spent a lot of time in Australia, and recently I moved back to Germany, which is why I'm white as a Swiss cheese. And I come to WrocLove at least once a year because there's a lot of great people, and the conference is something I won't miss.
I've heard you talk in Krakow, and you say you loved it, the city, because it's beautiful and you like beer and stuff. What do you love the most about Wrocław, apart from beer? Because I know you love this about Poland in general, right?
You're trying to spark a war now between Krakow, Warsaw, and Wrocław, right? I know you. I don't know. Wrocław was my first Polish city ever. I visited, and so we went to lots of places in my first trip to Poland. So Wrocław is kind of my, I always associate Wrocław with like traveling in Poland and like adventure and everything. So I don't know, Wrocław has a special meaning in my heart, basically. Without drinking and everything, it's just like because there was my first conference ever in Wrocław. It was great.
Nice. So you do love traveling. You told you've been to Australia for some time. But what do you do when you not travel? What do you do in life as a programmer?
Okay. Well, I try to mix my life so I don't have to really think, am I living right now or am I working? So my usual strategy is do your job as a programmer, live somewhere close to the beach because I love surfing and I love sun, which is not obvious right now. And I kind of get the balance between life/work without having to work on that. Like normally, I just live a good life and do some programming, and it works. At the moment, I live in Hanover, which sucks, and I just go to work 8 to 5, and it's not what I want, but the project is finished in 2 weeks, so everything's fine.
And this work from 8 to 5 you program in Ruby, right?
Yeah, most of the time. Sometimes I just talk.
But when you program, can you actually say you love programming in Ruby, or it's rather the other way?
Oh no, I would. I love my job. I love software engineering. I love to solve problems in a generic way, so you can reuse the solution in 500 other places. So I managed to make that my job title, basically. So people hire me to do that, and I don't have to argue with them because I don't have to deliver features or something. I say, let's do this and that refactoring, and they pay me for it, and that's great. So this is why I love my job, because there's no fighting. That's really cool.
Nice.
We're hiring.
I'll consider that. You're mostly known for your work at Trailblazer, right? Would you agree? Or you're a great surfer that I don't know, or any other hobby that I'm not aware about?
Also a successful businessman. I don't know.
Most wanted speaker at any conference. This also.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like I can't go out of my house without getting people
paparazzi.
Like the autograph, and the girls are yelling at me.
Yeah,
you can tell, right?
That's why they're here.
No, I think most of my work has been around the Trailblazer stuff. So that's kind of, some people know me from some libraries I wrote or some texts I've written and this kind of stuff. So what I learned is, if you create something, people will remember you.
That's true. Very true.
Very deep words, I know.
Yeah. So if you had to say one sentence about your work, Trailblazer, and why everybody should start using it right now.
Well, it's very simple. Are you tired of a messy software? Are you worried about your future? Do you want to sleep at night without thinking of bugs? Use Trailblazer.
Da-da-da-da! That's actually the sound. So what did you talk about today? I obviously heard your talk for everybody. What was your message and what were you trying to say?
Okay, I used this talk because I knew the audience is super nice, so I could talk basically about my career from when I started programming to the way I think programming should be done presently. So I kind of talked through my career and the patterns I kind of appreciate, the patterns I invented, and then how I kind of structure software. And so I was talking from from a mess to what I think is a well-architected, well-engineered system, and it took me only 39 minutes.
And you did mention Trailblazer. Now coming back
But
to
only
it.
a few times, right? I didn't do the pitching.
Well, hidden pitching.
Well-
That's how I took it, at least. Now coming back to Trailblazer, you're advising on for companies using your gem, right?
Most of the time, the companies don't use Trailblazer yet. So, but they have really.
They have
fancy-
to, right?
Well, there's only one choice.
Exactly.
If you either commit suicide or you use Trailblazer. That's
Yes.
the thing. So
Now,
they,
speaking of options, do you bring Trailblazer as something opposite to Rails or not?
it's an extension. It's an extension to any framework. So we just we focus on business logic. So everything that was kind of left behind in the past couple of decades, because there's lots of frameworks in Java, PHP, Elixir, but no one focuses on how do we structure business logic, like how do we structure the actual code we have to write. So that's, to me, Rails is, in my opinion, not the best framework, but I'm not
Which one is
against
the
it.
best?
Man, as long as they use something like, as long as they have structure, I fancy any framework, but Rails just teaches people to put all your code in the model and the controller, that's fine. So, but I'm not against Rails. To be honest, Rails is generating money for me because people hire me to fix it. So I'm not against it. It's just I see the future in more business logic oriented frameworks and not in something like, hey, just do stuff the way we did it 15 years ago, and that's gonna be great.
So basically, you accept people, using Rails, but you just consider using Trailblazer makes it even better.
Absolutely. I mean, Rails is a really low-level framework in a way. Like, it doesn't really tell you how to structure applications. It shows you how to structure database CRUD stuff, but it doesn't give you a structure. So if you use something like Trailblazer is at the moment the only framework that gives you the whole package of here's how I structure my actual business logic. If you use it, you benefit from us thinking about all that stuff before you have to think about it. So there's no competition or something. Like, people use Rails and they say it's fine. People use Rails with Trailblazer and they say it's better. Or they say it sucks. And I don't see it as a competing framework because we do something completely different.
Okay. And what is the most appropriate and the best use case for Trailblazer with Rails you've seen so far?
Any kind of you want to hear a concrete product, or you want to?
Would be nice.
I really liked when I worked for a bikini company in Byron Bay in Australia. We had this big ass software with backend for production and mail order and everything. So we used Trailblazer. That's actually where I started the Trailblazer thing as a name, and that was just a perfect use case. Backend stuff and doing all the coordination between teams, and they have their workflows and they have to produce so many bikinis in pink and S and that model and blah blah blah. So that was a perfect use case. Basically anything that's more complex than a donut.
You said you borrowed some principles of Trailblazer from more enterprise languages like...
Hey, you actually listened to my talk. That's impressive.
Yeah, I've heard it second time. I've been in Krakow as well, for the last conference. So you said you were borrowing some concepts from other languages. Did you work at any of the languages for a longer time?
No. I've been doing PHP and Perl for many years, and but PHP was really primitive back then, so I kind of started to work on higher level concepts in PHP, which I then took to Ruby, but I've never really used Java, Go, I don't know, something like Haskell. So this is all stuff I want to learn, and I always sit there and I want to have one day in my life, I just want to play with a new language and see what they do, but it's terrible.
So you don't just you're not trying to bring Java concepts to Ruby, but you're trying to develop.
Apparently I am.
Yeah, that's what I heard a lot of people saying. Yeah. So why don't you use Java instead, And the question is, you're not really trying to bring Java concepts to Ruby, but you're trying to develop the similar concepts in Ruby community, in Ruby way programming, right?
You could say, I could say yes now, but actually I think this is a very, I'm not saying you are superficial, but people see, as soon as you introduce more architecture than MVC, people say, that's Java, like you're so Java. Like, actually what I do has nothing to do with Java, like I just introduced encapsulation.
People hear enterprise, they hear Java, right?
And now, with the BPMN in Trailblazer, like we use the same diagram language that people in Java have been using for decades. And so people see that and they will say, oh, this is so Java. What are you guys doing? Like, you're overcomplicating something. Just write your code in Ruby and it's going to be great. And it doesn't work. I mean, we see that in a million of products. They are so messy that no one can change one place without breaking 5 other things. So I don't think it's. I've heard this Java comparison a lot, but I think it's more about advanced concepts, and they're not like Java. Using Java will not help me. It's more like the concepts they have found out over many years help us in Ruby, because in Ruby we're kind of like still, scripting our little Rails applications. Like, yeah, let's see if it works. And oh, fuck, I have 1 million users. It's so slow. We have to do something about it. And we can learn so much from mature languages.
Speaking of slow, do you really think that Ruby is slow as a language?
I am.
Or maybe the other way. Do you think it should be faster?
I mean, faster
is better.
I always quote Mats, who said, "Ruby is fast enough."
Exactly. That's why I'm asking. Last time I was listening for Mats in Ruko, and I said some people say Ruby is slow. I say it's fast enough. It was never meant to be lightning fast.
He is right in a way. The question is, what are we doing in Ruby? And if you do something really complex, like calculations and stuff, maybe you should use another programming language. Ruby is designed for, and that's exactly what I'm interested in, is like, business workflows, designing a nice system that you can use, or maybe many systems that interact. Ruby's great at this kind of stuff, even though we don't have typing. Maybe because we don't have typing. So Ruby is great for this kind of stuff, and you build systems with Ruby really fast. And I mean, Ruby could be faster, of course, but I personally think that if you have something really fast, you don't use Ruby. Like,
exactly.
The choice of tools,
Every time I ask people, do you think Ruby is slow? They say, yeah, of course Ruby is slow. But when was the last time you couldn't make your application run faster because you use Ruby, not some other language? And most of the times, it's just your application is slow by design, not the Ruby. This is not the limit.
Yeah, but also people think speed is basically, they measure active record, and active record itself is the wrong design. If you use something like SQL or ROM, which is my absolute go-to database tool now, it's so much faster, and you have less memory leaks and all this kind of stuff. So maybe we're talking, like, people say Ruby is slow, but they actually mean active record is slow. And I'm not saying active record is wrong or anything, but if you talk about applications,
you like the author of active record, right? I've heard you quoting so many times.
I like everyone,
Okay.
The problem is they don't like me.
Well, that's their problem, right?
So yeah, I think when you talk about speed and there's not active record involved, then you have a point. But most people, what they mean is active record is slow, because Ruby is not. If you do, I don't know, Fibonacci computations a million times a second, of course Go is going to be faster.
But you don't do that kind of stuff in Ruby.
I'm not interested in that. Exactly, I'm interested in designing applications so I have fun working with them, and that's what Ruby is really good at, is that it gives you a language that makes it fun to work with, even though it gives you a lot of pitfalls as well.
Okay, so to sum it up, one more question about Ruby and Trailblazer. Why on earth would you move to Australia?
Oh, sun, skin cancer, killing deadly snakes and spiders. No, actually, I just ended up living in Australia because I went to a conference, got a job offer. I love surfing, so it all like just came together, and I took the chance, and I don't miss it. I mean, I do miss actually to live there because now I'm in Germany and it's cold and winter, it's snowing, and people are depressed.
Just like in Poland, right?
Yeah,
It's snowing
but
outside.
we have colored rainbows, not gray rainbows like in Poland.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nick, for this talk.
Thank you so much.
We all gonna start using Trailblazer, I promise you.
Great.
Thanks.